All right, friends. Recently, I bought a new car, brand new, okay, as my wife's primary car. My daughter and son-in-law recently bought a new vehicle, and a viewer asked me what I use to decide to buy a new car, replacement car. How do I make that decision and make it a good financial one? So I thought the universe was talking to me about putting out a video here. Um, Hopefully this will be helpful to you. Cars are such a critical financial decision. Most people overlook them, buy with emotion, buy for their egos, just to be candid, and it can have enormous long-term cost. Winning the car game alone is probably one of the biggest things you can do to reach financial independence. For example, a $500 a month payment, which is pretty easy with a new car. When you think about insurance costs, insurance, your payment, your taxes, your license. If you get a little dent in your car, if it's brand new, you're going to get it fixed. If it's older, you're not. It could easily be $500 a month difference for 35 years, 7.5% return on that, $1 million. Okay, that's why I picked 7.5. It equals 1 million. So a new car costs you about $1 million long term if you overdrive in a good, reliable used car. Okay, so just something to think about. You combine that with a 401k, your company match that you get, you're 2/3 of the way to a pretty nice retirement, if not there. So it's important to remember when you're buying a car, it's for transportation. Cars are about transportation. Some need function like towing or hauling. You may have a camper, or you may have a job where you need to haul firewood or dirt or something. Most people don't. Do you really need a four-wheel drive Super Crew F-150 truck for $80,000 to get groceries at Walmart? The vast majority of these $80,000 pickup trucks that are driving around the United States, they're empty. The back is empty. Do you really need those? I think it's a status symbol, but that's judgmental. Light up the comments with disagreement there. You do deserve reliable transportation. You don't want to go out, to your garage or driveway and 50% of your time your car doesn't start. So, hey, you want good, reliable transportation. You can get that at a good price. And it's important that you realize a vehicle is not a status symbol. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what you drive. I drive a minivan, my hand-me-down minivan. I mentioned we bought a new vehicle. It was a Honda Odyssey, which is a minivan. I got my wife's old vehicle, which is a 2012 Toyota Sienna with 190,000 miles on it. Great, extremely reliable car. I would drive it across the country and back without blinking an eye. That's the things that are important to remember. Okay, what can you afford? Okay, when I think about this is like, hey, if you're getting a loan for a car, you're still building for savings to buy a house, or you're beginning your retirement savings, you're beginning to build your nest egg, you're starting your journey, you're out in your 20s and 30s, maybe even 40s, you should be buying a used car. I target from 75,000 to 110,000 miles, which I think is a good price point. I've got an example. I'm going to go into it in a second with the math behind that. Your most expensive miles on a vehicle are 0 to 75,000. Round numbers. Don't argue with me that it's 60 or 80, but your first 75,000 miles ish are where you're most expensive, and I'll show the example of that. My daughter, as an example, just bought a Toyota Camry. I think it was a 14 with 75,000 miles on it, and paid cash for it. Actually didn't get a loan, but let somebody else drive the expensive miles, you drive the cheap miles. Trent, her husband, needed a work car, and he'll probably be driving this car for 10, 12 years. He just needs reliable transportation back and forth to work. Okay, what can you afford? Assume you've got no debt, you've got the cash, your savings is almost nearly fully funded. It's okay to buy new. New is a little bit more expensive. But if you drive it till the car is unreliable, it's actually not too bad of a deal. It's the second cheapest thing to do. Again, I got analysis coming up here in a second. I just purchased a new Honda Odyssey 2022. Like I said, I drive a 2012 Toyota Sienna. Um, we travel a lot, and we go for an extended amount of time. So we bring a lot of our stuff with us, like, bring 3-4 weeks worth of clothes with you, and bring some food with us, and all the creature comforts we like when we move in a place and we're traveling for that long. Our Sienna minivan, I can't count the number of times we've moved our kids to college, home from college, and then off to their new careers. So as a moving vehicle, it has been exceptional. It's very functional, safe, great driving experience. Love how the minivan handles. A lot of people don't like how they look in a minivan. I don't care. I want good, reliable transportation. One of the advantages of buying new, the maintenance record of it. That is a risk when you buy a car with, 75,000 miles on it. You don't know if they've had one oil change or they've changed oil every 3,000 miles. You don't know. So there is a longevity assurance that you do get from buying a new car. And at this point in my career, I'm 58 and retired, and we had in our bucket one the money to buy a car, and that's what we chose to do with our money and move on down the road. So now I'm going to jump into some math. So I use a metric called dollars per mile. I'm not sure if anybody else uses that, but I've been using this for 30 years. Dollars per mile. So I am buying reliable miles driven. How much does it cost for those miles? So I'm a big snob here. I like Toyotas, Hondas, and Subarus. They get the most miles out of them. I'm going to assume 225,000 reliable miles. And this new vehicle, and this is just an example, this is not all cases and all vehicles, but this is kind of a worksheet I build up when I'm looking at purchasing. 225,000 miles, say a brand new one cost 45,000, and one with 100,000 miles, a used vehicle, may cost 18,000. Okay, so here's three options. Obviously, there's more depending on what mileage you're at. But say I bought that vehicle brand new and drove it to its unreliable, like 225,000 miles. Okay, the math here is I paid $45,000 for it, and I assumed that, at 225,000 miles, that car is going to be worth $5,000. I could sell it for $5,000. So I paid $40,000 for that vehicle, divided by 225,000 miles that I drove is $0.18 per mile, 18 cents a mile. Okay, that's what I'm doing, and now I'm using that as my base case. You buy it new, drive it till it's unreliable. You want to sell it for $5,000. Now, what's important in here, I mentioned Toyota, Honda, and Subaru. If you bought a Chevy or a Jeep or a Dodge, that 225 changes. I'd probably change that to about 140, okay? About 140 and work all the math. Okay, so option number two is you buy the car brand new, you drive it for, 90, 100,000 miles. I use 100 in this example. And then I want to get rid of it. I like having a new car every, 4 or 5 years. So you bought it new at 45. You're able to sell it for 18, okay? Same 18's over here, but you only drove it 100,000 miles, $0.27 per mile, $0.27 per mile. And then my third option here is, hey, I'm going to buy a car used. I'm going to buy it about 100,000 miles on it, drive it till it's unreliable. So I bought it for 18,000. I still sold it for 5,000 here, okay, when it's unreliable. But I only drove it 125,000 miles because I bought it with 100 on it, $0.1 per mile. So obviously, the cheapest miles that you can drive, and this is just an illustration of that, is that that second 125,000 miles. Let somebody else drive the 100, okay? And you're getting it far cheaper. Somebody else driving the 100, see right here, they're paying 0.27. They're paying this vehicle, the cheapest option. This is the most expensive, driving the first 100,000 miles, almost 3 times the cost. So it's 3 times the expense to buy it new and drive it that first 100,000 miles. It's almost twice as expensive buying it brand new and driving it till it's unreliable. Okay. Now, like I said, if you can afford it and you like having new, and you're not borrowing money at 5% interest. You're funding your retirement. You bought a house. Maybe it's 80% pulled off, paid off. Hey, this is a legitimate thing to do. Okay, and I'm 58. This is where I am in my life. I bought a brand new car, but by far the best thing financially to do, by a lot, is to buy a car about 100,000 miles. I mean, it's twice as expensive to buy it new or to buy it new and drive it till it drops, and 3 times expensive just to drive the first 100,000 miles. Imagine doing that for 40 years, what you can say. Okay, this is just for you advanced folks. I was actually looking at a Toyota hybrid. It's a 4-cylinder with a hybrid engine in it, hybrid transmission, has electric engine in addition to the internal combustion engine with it, versus a Honda Odyssey. Both of these are great minivans. And this Honda Odyssey was just your routine 6-cylinder internal combustion engine. So looking at 160,000 miles, I'll tell you why. I picked that in a second, which is about 8 years of me operating it, my wife and I. 20,000 miles a year, 8 years. Okay. So let's look at the Toyota first. Well, we'll look at them together. The Toyota was about $5,000 more, 50,000 versus 45,000. So a $5,000 advantage. That's the minus for the Honda Odyssey is a minus $5,000. This got about 36 miles to the gallon, which is great. Okay. I was in the econo mode, which I leave it in all the time. Computer controls the engine and kind of less acceleration. Really don't notice it. And better mileage on the highway. I get about 25 is what I've been averaging for the last 6 months. So 20,000 miles means at 36 miles per gallon means you're going to buy 556 gallons of gasoline. I'm going to assume $3.25 per gallon means this hybrid is going to spend about $1,806 a year on gasoline. Okay. So let's go over to the Honda Odyssey, 20,000 miles. That's 800 gallons, 325. They're going to spend 2,600. So the difference between 1,806 and 2,600 is $800 a year. You're going to save on gasoline times 8 years. Okay, so this one's the Honda Odyssey is going to cost $6,400 more in the first 8 years of operation. So more than offsetting the initial purchase price. But we're not done yet. Okay. The battery pack in the hybrid has a 150,000 mile warranty. And you're lucky if you get there. But they will give you a warranty for 150,000 miles because this is a big deal. At 150,000 miles, your car is basically worthless. A hybrid is worthless. You have to have a good, reliable battery in there. You want good, reliable transportation, right? So you're going to have to spend $10,000 to replace that battery. And this is a Joe prediction. You've heard it here first. They're going to start charging you a disposal fee on that battery of $2,000. Remember, you heard it here first. It's big. Try to get rid of electronics nowadays. See how hard that is? Imagine a massive battery pack with all these heavy metals inside of it. They're gonna start charging for that. So I'm gonna put $12,000 on for that. So then you come over here and put a minus $12,000 under this Odyssey. The Odyssey ends up being the 8-year operational cost is $10,600 cheaper. Okay, it's cheaper in it. Even though you get better gas mileage, the initial cost and the price of that battery greatly offset that. You still have, at 150,000 miles, you still have an 150,000 mile internal combustion engine in it, okay? So you still got to have you're not getting a brand new car here at 150,000 miles. You still got that ICE engine in there, and you have a much more complex transmission. You basically have 2 engines in your car that need to work together. Yeah, you can get into maintenance costs of brakes and things like that are cheaper, but you got to offset $10,000. That's a lot to offset. So So yes, every 8 years you do save, $6,400 on gas, but I just don't even see that being close to worth it. And if you're interested, what does gas price have to get to for that to be a break even? So it's a break even between these two vehicles on cost is $8.71 a gallon. So if we ever get there, you're at the break even point of buying a hybrid or a Honda Odyssey 6-cylinder standard ICE engine, just based off the financials. This is not anything to do with green. That's a whole nother discussion. That's a long discussion. That's not my expertise on this channel. I'll continue on a last segment. For financial independence, you really need to learn to win the automobile game. Don't get caught in the trap of an automobile being a status symbol. Don't let it be your ego. It's reliable transportation. So hopefully my math has helped you out. If you disagree with something I said, let me know in the comments. If you agree, let me know in the comments. Always let me know where you're from. I enjoy hearing that. This is Joe out.